world, right? I mean, this thing is new. That's a big one. Don't worry about that right there. Yeah. All right, we good? Okay. I'm gonna be out of the way anyway. I'm not gonna be up here. This is just for right now. You can stay up in the spotlight. You thought you were out. Are we live? Oh. All right, what's up, guys? How you guys doing online? Thanks for joining us at Hopportunity again. Appreciate it. We've got some friends here. We've got some new faces I haven't seen yet, so it's good to meet you guys. Thank you for joining us. How'd you guys find us, by the way? Him? JP? Awesome. Nice. I know Ed. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it. Awesome. How about you guys? How'd y'all find us? Alex. Nice. Yeah? Second time? Awesome. Good stuff. And I think it was Carter. Yeah? Awesome. So JP? Awesome, man. And Bill's joining us. So guys, thanks for coming and joining us. I appreciate it. Those guys online. So Hopportunity has been in function for 5 years. If you guys didn't remember, we did a little announcement where Alex stepped down and JP stepped in, and then Alex came back to do a talk on what we're talking about tonight, which is house hacking and hopping and leveraging, right? So it's going to be pretty cool to have him back and doing that. But JP is going to tell you about himself a little bit. You guys have seen me around for quite some time. Been around in the industry about 13 years. We do wholesaling, rehabbing, lending. We do the creative financing stuff, the sub 2. So if there's a lot of things in real estate that you aren't familiar with, I think we've probably touched a good amount of all of them, right? And we've done pretty well with them. And I've also got my ass kicked pretty well too. Anybody that says they hasn't, they're lying. You're in this business long enough. Yeah. Like this business is not when are you going to get, or if you're going to get sued, it's when. And you're not, when am I going to lose money? It's just how much, right? So be okay with that and know that it's coming. And that's just part of the game. But keep yourself around these type of people so that you learn what not to do, learn from their mistakes, and that'll be really helpful, right? So those guys online, thanks for joining us. JP, take it away, my friend.
Been in real estate for about 8 years. Started off wholesaling just on the side while running a business. Got licensed about 3 years now. Just decided that, hey, meeting these folks off market, getting licensed was another tool on the tool belt to be able to assist these folks going on. So the whole time, though, throughout the whole journey, I was connected with these guys. So whether it was off market deals or information, transactions trying to navigate through, I'd bounce it off both of these guys who were always there to give some feedback on it. So now I'm licensed full-time, practicing full-time as an agent on Alex's team.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right, so we're going to get right into it. I'm not going to hold anything back. Start a little bit later. Let Alex get into it, and let's rock. You want to do your toast stuff because you're back?
Oh. All right.
That is not something I'm taking over, so I'm glad to hear you have it and be back with it.
All right, so when I was here, back in the day, we would always start with a little toast. May your castle be secure and your cup overflowing. Cheers. Let's do this.
Nice. All right, let's get going, guys. Thank you.
Cool. I'll jump into it. I'm Alex Winfield. Work with JP and Ricky over here, and Vanessa, who is behind the scenes. And we have I'm a real estate agent, and we work with a lot of investors. We work a lot with kind of everything now. We've been doing this a little bit, and we've got a team, so we can do a lot of different stuff. So at this point, we've done commercial. We've done all different kinds of residential, from flips to seller finance deals to assumptions to kind of everything. So tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got in the business and go into house hacking, house hopping, and leveraging real estate. I think real estate investing is really about taking advantage of the opportunities that are around you and grabbing that low-lying fruit when you can. I think as real estate investors, especially us here at things like this, we overcomplicate stuff all the time. So, how can we do it? How can anybody do real estate? That's kind of what this is about, getting creative with it. But really, like, how can anybody do it? And so, I'm going to go into a little bit about what kind of my journey has been, because each parts of the journey that I had kind of led to me understanding real estate better, understanding investing better, and being able to impart that on other people. And so it kind of leads into everything that is house hacking, hopping, and of course leveraging real estate so we can do more of it. All right, so to start, I always like to start with the definition and do it a couple times because I have a really bad memory, so I have to reiterate things. So house hacking, you purchase a house that you will live in while minimizing your costs or living expenses by renting out a room or an adjoining unit. We'll dive into all this a little deeper a little bit later on, but I want to put it out there first. So basically we're going to turn this house into a business. We're gonna do something with it so it starts making money or at least costing you less. House hopping. So this is something that I kind of started using. I don't know if it's really a thing, but it's something I call a thing. House hopping is when you buy a property, you live in it, but the difference is the end goal is that you're going to turn it into a rental property. You're going to start building this portfolio. So you buy it, but you know that you're going to turn it into a rental property, so that it can make money for you and it goes in your portfolio at the end. So these are the two terms that we're going to focus on. You're going to hear a lot about them as we go on, but we'll kind of move on from that, talk a little bit about who I am and why I'm in this game. Ashley, you mind going to the next slide? All right, so I love this picture, Grant Cardone. And I was like, sometimes you feel like a little imposter up here when you're talking, and these guys get up and they give these speeches about how we can get to 100 properties in 6 months, and they've got planes and helicopters and cool stuff. And then the next slide, there's a lot of slides, Ashley. You're gonna really have to focus on this one. I apologize. This is more my fleet, right? This is my style. So, I don't have a helicopter, although that would be super cool. That doesn't seem to be in the cards right now because helicopters don't hold but so many people unless you get a really big one. But guys, my portfolio is very humble, but it fits me. It fits my lifestyle. It fits what we want in our vision and our why. And that's what we'll get into. So I've got 6 properties now, and we've picked them up along the way. It's kind of an organic process to get there. And I think a lot of people kind of forget about some of the ways that you can pick up real estate. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus on is, hey, while you're doing this, try to pick up things the easy way, the way that it doesn't take all your cash, the way that, is, I don't know, there's good opportunities throughout your life to pick up real estate. And the key is this: get into real estate as early as you can and pick up properties when you can. So the thing that me and my wife saw is that real estate could bring long-term wealth. So yeah, let's go to the next slide real quick. Real estate for me, it started with some craziness. But our path has always been focused on our why, right? Everybody's got their own why. They've got their own real estate vision. And I'm going to keep going back to that because the key is this: you got to know what you're doing in real estate. Everybody's got a different path. Everybody's going to do different things. Know what works for you, your assets, your family. And so for me, I never really cared about being rich. I knew I was going to have a job. I've got 4 kids. What am I going to do without a job? Like, it makes sense for me to be working. So to me, that always, it wasn't really a way for me to just replace my job. So real estate was something that I was going to do along the way. So I've got 4 kids. My beautiful wife, Stephanie, we just actually had our dating anniversary. We've been together since the I was in the 10th grade, so it was like 26 years. Crazy. Yeah. So she's been along with me the entire time. So, we never cared about getting rich. We started this whole thing together without any money, and our goals are based around what our perspective on life is, and that's the key, guys. You got to understand your why, build everything around that, and it doesn't have to look like anybody else's. So we found that through our experiences in real estate, really through getting into it, that we learned and we were able to do more, and there's just so much opportunity in real estate. So I want to start with what really got things going. So I call this one baptism by fire. So next slide. Okay. All right. So this, okay. So what I did is I combined two talks together, and I'm going to try to speed it up tonight. But next slide. I was supposed to have a little controller thing, so I didn't have to say next slide, but it's okay. So baptism by fire, and the next one. Okay, cool. So the idea was from underwater to waterfront. So how did I get from this to loving real estate and being totally into it? Well, my wife's dad was a real estate agent, and so we got married back in 06. We were like 23, I think. And he always taught them that, hey, when you buy real estate, or when you're going to live somewhere, you should buy instead of rent. It's a great concept. That was kind of the top of my understanding of real estate. It's better to buy than rent. And it makes sense. So we just decided to buy at a really bad time. And I put this up here because everything about this property says, get the hell away from real estate. But the reality is, this is what got us into real estate. So I'm going to kind of roll through this real quick. We bought on a main street. Now that I've been doing this for a while, I'm always like, hey, that's on a main street. Just be careful. Flood zone can be bad. This case, it was bad. We bought in 06 or 07. Market tanked in 08. So I think we bought it for like 230. I don't exactly remember right offhand. But within the next year, it was like worth 130,000. And we're just like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Our house is worth 130,000. I'll get back to that later. Our house literally flooded, so we were underwater in 09. And, like I said, we bought a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. We thought we were going to have a big family. Obviously, we did have a big family, and we outgrew it like really fast. So we made all these like really bad mistakes on buying our first piece of property. But what I was kind of getting to with this slide, and this is the main one I'm going to focus on about my stuff, is when you go through it, it was the process of dealing with all this crap and learning from it that made us kind of understand real estate and end up loving it in some strange, probably sadistic way. But so we bought on a main street. Okay, we dealt with that. Flood zone. What do you do with that? So, all right. So how do I break this down? How do we deal with this? The house dropped $100,000 in a year. Guess what? What did we do? We said, all right, we just have to keep making our payments. Everybody scared the living crap out of us that we were in this horrible situation. But in all reality, we just had to keep making our payments. So we buckled down. We were tight with our money, which we were very tight with our money. That's probably how a lot of this happened. But one of the things I'm going to keep going back to is real estate's a long-term game. Not every deal has to be a long-term game. But if you want to buy and hold real estate in the model that I'm talking about, it's a long-term game. So it only sucks. That house is only worth $120,000 if I sell it. I wasn't going to sell it because I didn't have money to pay whoever was going to buy it to do that. So we held on to it. The other thing was our house literally flooded. Actually flooded twice, but our house flooded and now we had to rehab the entire house. And that sucks. I will put that clearly out there. Super stressful time in our lives. Um, actually ended up moving in with our parents, and that's always awesome. So took turns with each parents. That was kind of them to do that. But what did we do instead of just kind of buckling down and saying this is awful? We actually learned how to rehab a house. We saw that we could turn this house into something that was more than what it was. So we opened up walls, we added another bathroom, and we added value to the house. And we got experience doing a rehab. And then you know, as the family grew, we got older. We were kind of scared of real estate because of this experience, but uh, we started feeling trapped because we had kids. They were getting older, going to be in school, and the school zone wasn't good. We're like, what can we do to get out of this? So I called a buddy of mine up who had some rental properties in an area that had good schools. So I was like, hey man, can I rent one of your properties out? And he is like, Alex, why are you going to rent one of my properties? Why don't you just buy another property? I'm like, dude, I'm not rich. I can't buy two properties. I've already got one and it's underwater. Like, what am I, that's not something that people can do. And he's like, he's like, well, why don't you see if you can afford it? And so he ran the numbers and he's like, yeah, you could buy another place. And I'm like, I just never in my life thought that was even a thing that a normal person could do was own two properties. So that was kind of the first paradigm shift for me. It was like, okay, an average Joe making average money was able to own two properties. And so he's like, yeah, just basically buy another one and rent your old place out. Okay, let's try it. So we did that. And within the first month, we got our first rent collection and it covered the mortgage and then some. And I think that was kind of the eye-opening stage for me and my wife because, we've all been spoiled here in the last couple of years where you've got all this cash flow and you've got all these great things from your real estate investments. For me and my wife, our real estate investment was, well, one day we hope we can pay this thing off. That was like all we had hoped for. We were just putting money into this every year and just hoping that eventually we'd pay it off. Well, now we realized somebody else was going to pay that for us. And to us, that was kind of the changing factor. We got into real estate investing. It was something that kind of, I think I just realized that I was ignorant, which meant other people were probably ignorant. And so I wanted to help people see that real estate's an incredible opportunity. We weren't making much money. She was a teacher. I was making less than she was. And we were able to do real estate. We were able to buy two properties. And I just thought that other people needed to know that that was an option. So that, the next slide, I think has the next house, or maybe two slides. Yes, that was a game changer. Next one. That was the second house we bought. And that was the one that was like, okay, this is a thing that people should know about. It, and that's kind of where we are. Like, I got into real estate. I wanted to be an agent so I could help people understand the value in real estate. And then we wanted to do more deals. So the next one is, all right, so this is one of our properties. And the reason why I'm going into these, because I think they all have something to tell about them. This property was back in, I think, 2016. And if I'd have known what I knew now and had the confidence I have now, I would have sold like 100 more houses because there were so many freaking good deals out at the time. And I was telling people, hey, this is a really good deal. Check this out, and people were just like, it looks okay, blah, blah, blah. So I bought this property. It was something I'd given to a client to try and buy. And he was like, I don't want to buy in that area. I'm like, you're crazy. This is a really good deal. So it went under contract, then it came back up. And I called my wife up and I was like, hey, you got to look at this property. This is like a really good deal. I think we might have enough money to get it done. And so we literally put every one of our dollars pretty much into this deal. I think, had $200 left in the bank. That's legit. But we knew at the time. I was in the business. I understood it. I had managed properties. I knew it was going to make money. I knew we were going to figure it out. And so we jumped on it. It wasn't like it came at a really good time when we had a whole bunch of money. We had just enough money to do it, and we prayed about it, and we did it, and we were on the same page. I will say that, because a lot of this stuff in real estate, not everybody is going to be a full-time real estate investor. So if this is on your side gig, then this is a lot of times a life-changing event for you and your family. You got to make sure you're on the same page with the other people that are going on this ride with you. So we jumped in this, and this one ended up being awesome. I love this deal because we put about $3,000 into it right away, and then I got a tenant in there before my first mortgage payment. This is 2016, and I kind of hate saying this online, but I've never paid a mortgage on this. The tenants paid that every month. So that's the power of real estate. Somebody's been buying this property for me for however many years that is, which is pretty cool. But what I learned from this one was 20% down is a lot of money. You know, I wasn't making a lot of money at the time, and I was like, how the hell am I going to get more money to buy another property? So that was when we decided to do our next deal, which was a house hop. So I realized the value of being able to move into a property and getting that primary residential loan, 0 to 5%. So next one. Yep. And that original house we had that was underwater, we found a grant to actually get it lifted up. And so we were going to get the house lifted. We were going to out of the house for like 6 to 12 months. So we're trying to figure out what we were going to do. Well, we were in real estate at this time. We'd learned the value of it. And so instead of just renting a property, we're like, let's buy another property. Now we can get another deal, but it's only 5% down. So it was a lot of money at the time because we just bought Gilpin, I think less than a year before. So we just kind of started saving up, and we couldn't buy a property that needed a lot of work on it. And we had to buy within a certain time frame. So it really limited what we could buy, but we bought something that made sense for us. It wasn't the perfect deal. And I think people need to recognize that you're not always going to get the perfect deal. Sometimes it's more important to get a deal than to get the perfect deal. So with this one, we did our first house hop. We bought it with the primary residential loan, and we used. Oh, I think this one's funny too, right? I'm making a point of this because every time we bought a house, some crazy ass stuff was happening. So this time she was pregnant, like 9 months pregnant. I had number 3 in this house, like within like a month. She stopped her job. She was a teacher. I was full-time commission, in sales, real estate sales. And I didn't sell a house for like 3 months after. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? It was never like, none of these buys were ever easy. And they were never like, oh, this is like really simple. This one was super stressful too, but we knew it was going to work. We knew the system in place. We'd done this before, and it worked out, and ended up having probably my best year at the time after that, because I had a lot of reason to hustle really hard to to make ends meet. But so this is the first house hop we did. And the next slide, I think it goes to the break. All right. So I like this slide because I think it's something that people don't talk about when they're listening to these podcasts. We had a long time where we didn't buy properties. I bought a bunch, not a bunch. I bought a couple properties in a row. We used up most of our capital. We actually started making more money than we'd ever made, but our life was super busy. We had another kid. My business was taking off and growing, and I was trying to keep up with that. And so we were looking at all these deals all the time, probably more deals than we'd ever looked at, but we didn't actually buy anything. And that's okay. We were preparing the whole time so that we would be ready to pick up the right deal for us. And our vision was not to pick up just properties just to pick them up. It was to pick up the right properties for us. So we took our time. We tried, we put in all kinds of contracts on stuff. We tried all kinds of creative deals. But we had a big gap of not buying stuff. And that's okay. I think that's the key is know your vision and stick to it, and that's fine. So the next slide is the last house we purchased. And I think this is a cool one to end on because it's not, for us, this was our dream house that came several years early. And it's not me bragging. It's just more the fact that I want to point out that because we had done all the things we'd done in real estate, we were in position to do what we always dreamed of doing. So it's not luck in any kind of business or any kind of real estate that happens. It's being prepared and being in position to take advantage of the opportunities that come your way. So this one came up. It was a foreclosure. They actually had an open house. And the best thing about it was everybody in there was like, oh my gosh, this house is horrible. We need to tear it down. Like, this is like, I can't believe all this stuff. And so me and my wife were like, this is great. Nobody really sees the value in this that we see in it. So we were able to see the value. We weren't scared of doing a rehab loan or doing a rehab. We've done rehab loans with clients all the time. We have contractors in place. We had saved up a bunch of money because we were trying to buy these other deals that we ended up not doing. So we had capital in place. And the stuff that we had done and struggled with before led us to the place where we were able to basically, grab this opportunity when it was there. Because if anybody knows anything about real estate on the water, it is very difficult to come by, and it's always it's never just going to come up all the time. It's random and it's hard to find, and you usually have to be creative with it. So we were blessed to be in a position where we could jump on it and make it ours. And this was 2 years ago now that we actually purchased it. It took like 6 months to renovate it. And since then we've renovated it. We're living there and we love it. We'll probably be there the rest of our lives, God willing, of course. So we've since bought a little commercial building with some of the guys from our brokerage. But we've got a small portfolio, but it works with us, right? And so I'm using this not to just talk about me, but just to kind of say, like, as you go through these things, it's the experience that you get in the process that's going to help you do the next thing. It's picking up the property that's going to help you leverage to get the next property. And leverage can work in a lot of different ways, whether it's equity in the property or whether it's experience or whether it's just building up funds over time. You're always trying to leverage to get that next deal. So next slide is, we can skip that. All right, key takeaways from this: house hopping, legit way to cash flow. Opportunity doesn't come at opportune times. I 100% believe that. Anytime, one of like the, what is it, litmus tests? What does it say? Yeah, litmus test for me with real estate is like, there's got to be some level of suck to this and like high level of stress. Otherwise, it's probably not the right deal. Because everything I've ever done in real estate has always had some crazy factor to it. So expect it. Yeah. I think we learned that you got to be ready. Opportunities, you never know when they're going to come. So keep preparing. If you're not buying, then be saving and prepping. Hustle, be creative. Develop a long-term real estate vision. So we talked about knowing your why. I think that's so important, man. Everybody's vision is going to be different. Know your why. Understand that with whoever you're doing business with or whoever you're doing real estate with. Be on the same page with that. And then if you're working with a team, make sure they know your real estate vision. As agents, working with investors all the time, and different people are doing different kinds of investments. Some people are putting their retirement on the line. A lot of people are putting their retirement on the line. Some people are just using side money that they've got to play with. Everybody's in a totally different situation. Make sure your team understands what you're trying to do and the risk that is involved in you doing that and the assets that you have, so that people can work with you to accomplish those goals. But really, the ultimate thing was we learned that real estate is an incredible long-term wealth building vehicle. And we'll dive into the house hacking, house hopping part of that right now. So you can probably skip a couple slides. Yeah, go to the next one. All right. Da. All right, I'll hit this really quick. I always get stuck on this slide, so I'm trying not to do that. But real estate is a great investment, wealth building tool for a lot of reasons. If you read Bigger Pockets, the only reason you see is cash flow. And I hate to say it, but that is a great thing to have 100%. But I think all of them together need to be, you know, in the equation. So, you got to live somewhere. That's why house hopping's so powerful. You're going to be living somewhere regardless. Maybe you can utilize that to kind of jumpstart your path into real estate. Everybody's got to live somewhere. There's a finite amount of real estate. So there is value to real estate no matter what. It might not be, there's going to be ups and downs in real estate, but there's always some kind of value. Appreciation, equity, and bank leverage. So, what's up, guys? So, when you talk about appreciation, people are really funny about actually talking about appreciation because a lot of people got burned back in 08 with, appreciation, people buying for simply appreciation, right? And so we're like, all right, we don't talk about that. We just talk about cash flow. Guess what? You know why people buy real estate? You know why most people buy real estate is because the potential for it to appreciate. I'm not saying that's the only reason you should buy, but when people hold on to it for a really long time, it's because the hope is that it's going to grow over time. Tax write-offs, absolutely. Depreciation. Well, taxes, honestly, great. Leveraging bank money. I think that's one of my favorites with real estate, right? Where else can you get a product like real estate? You literally put 5% down on a property and now you can get 100% of the appreciation gain. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like if you did $100,000 purchasing a house, which is pretty tough to do right now, but it's easy math. And you got a conventional loan, you put 5% down. All right, so you really only have 5% into the game. And that appreciates, the house appreciates 5%. Well, if you look at it, you're actually appreciating your $5,000 is actually appreciating 100%. You're actually basing, what other investment can you put this little bit in the whole thing you're going to get gains off of? It's kind of crazy. I'm not saying just buy for appreciation. That's not a good idea. 100% don't do that, but it needs to go into the calculation. A lot of clients I work with, that is really why they're buying, because they have excess money and they're like, look, I could buy all different kinds of investments, but I know that real estate is going to grow over time. So appreciation is a very powerful thing. Leveraging bank money is awesome. There's so many ways to leverage bank money and other people's money in real estate. And then cash flow. Cash flow is king. And we want to create passive income. That's awesome. Financial freedom would be kind of the utopia goal for sure. We all kind of want to get there. But at the end of the day, the idea is long-term wealth. How do we build it? How do we get there to build a portfolio of properties? So I think I've done a lot of these meetups. I'm sure you guys have as well. When you talk to the old guys that have been doing this for forever, the one thing they always say is, hey, buy properties, get a portfolio over time. They don't say buy bad properties. I'm not suggesting that, but get properties. The guys who do really well, they own real estate. And I think that is one of the keys. So next slide, please. big picture with this is build a real estate portfolio, cash flowing properties, or at least they take care of themselves. You should make enough money where your properties are taking care of themselves. So you're not coming out of your pocket to fix something. And, you know, the strategies that we're using, really anybody can do. House hacking, house hopping. It's something that everybody can do. So it's an easy access point. So, Ashley, next slide. Okay, we're back here. I said we'd be back here. So purchase a house that you will live in while minimizing your costs, living expenses by renting out a room or joint unit. Turn your house into a business. House hopping, purchase a house that you will live in with the end goal of holding it and turning it into a rental investment. I think the idea is, look, these are stepping stones. So think of them as how they're going to kind of help you grow your portfolio, help you grow, you know, and something you can leverage in the future. The genius to me behind house hacking and house hopping is not just, all right, I can decrease my rent for, you know, my living expense for the next year. To me, it's the fact that you can save your cash so you can buy another deal. And that's where I think the real, you know, kind of behind the scenes genius is on this. So in the next slide, it's we can kind of show you that. All right, here's the difference. If you buy a property as an investor, you got to put 20% down, right? If you buy a property as a someone who's going to live in it, you put 0 to 5% down. So what happens when you start trying to get a portfolio is you run out of money. So cash is super important to have. In this case, it's a $150,000 house. You got $30,000 down as an investor. How does that compare to somebody who's going to live in the house? Well, they've got to put 5% down, so $7,500. A lot of people don't have $30,000 to put down on a house. But most people, if they work hard and save their money, they can come up with $7,500, right? So with $30,000, the investor buys one property. With $30,000, the person who's house hopping is buying 4 properties. So we're leveraging our money the best we can so that we can use that cash at another point. Even if you got the cash, you want it to keep working for you. And if you did this over 10 homes, you know, you're talking at least $300,000, at a minimum $300,000. I get this is not the whole equation. But if you do 10 homes when you're house hopping, $75,000. So you're saving $225,000 over 10 homes. Reason I do 10 homes, a lot of people do a goal of 10 homes over a certain amount of time. And that's a realistic goal. That's something you can do. You might not be able to do all of them through house hopping, but how much money can you save if you use that strategy? And then if you're house hacking it, you're saving even more money. So it's really about thinking about that big picture and then working backwards. Okay, I want to get to 10 properties. If I can get a couple of these while saving as much cash as possible, then that's going to help me continue to grow my portfolio. The next slide, we talk about a duplex. So everybody's familiar with house hacking a duplex, right? This is kind of the standard model, but the idea is simple, right? If I live in this unit, then I can rent this unit out. Then my cost of living goes way down. We got to live somewhere. Why not make it as cheap as possible? But why are we making it cheap as possible? Not just so that it's cheap, so that we can start saving up for the next property. We can start putting that money back into that fund so that we can continue to grow the portfolio. In this case, I mean, it just kind of shows you what it's looking like. So $200,000. Now, a lot of these numbers are old because this is kind of an old presentation. So this is obviously not a 7% interest rate, but let's still roll with it here. So $200,000 monthly mortgage, $1,095. Money down $7,000. That's still the same. Rent $850. Monthly living expense $245. So, I mean, if you can live in a house for under like $1,000 right now, you're probably doing pretty good because it's getting expensive out there. So, by house hacking, you're making it affordable for you to live. You're also giving yourself the ability to build up some capital so you can get your next deal. All right. And then the next slide, we talk about some different creative ways that, tools and assets. Okay. Yeah. So we talked about the live-in loans. You guys know about the VA loan, no money down if you're a military member. Incredible opportunity. I mean, if you can leverage 100%, I don't know, it's hard to do math on that, but FHA 3.5% down, conventional loan 5% down. Now the VA and FHA are tough to get those ugly properties that we like on the investor side, but they do have rehab loans, which a lot of my clients have been able to take advantage of. So the rehab loan for FHA, the 203 FHA 203K loan is awesome. You can pretty much do anything. I think you can go down to like 2 walls. As long as you keep 2 walls, you can do pretty much anything you want. So that's pretty cool. I mean, hopefully the 2 walls are together and they're holding each other up. But rehab loans are awesome because in real estate, right, we're trying to add value. We're trying, and especially in this market, the houses that are perfectly together and priced decently are going to sell super fast, and they're extremely competitive. The only deals you're going to get in this market are going to be ugly properties where people cannot see the value in them. And so you sometimes have to go that route. The rehab loans are the best way to do that route if you're trying to limit your cash. Basically, you're buying a house at $100,000. You want to put $50,000 into it in the rehab. Now it becomes a $150,000 loan. You're still only paying the 5% down on the $150,000. So instead of having $50,000 cash in this deal, now you've got the potential to only spend, I think that was what, $7,500. Yeah. So some really cool tools. Cash out refinance, HELOC loans, right? The idea is to keep leveraging the capital from the properties you have to get to the next deal. The next slide, we talk about some creative kind of ways to do this, right? House hacking, especially for, some young military guys. There's some really cool stuff you can do that people are doing, right? Have some roommates. You got some guys that you're on the ship with, bring them over, give them a cheaper place to stay. Now you got, less living expense every year or every month. Rent out a room while you're on deployment. I mean, you're not there. Make your house work for you while you're gone. Airbnb, short-term rentals. This has got a little bit more complicated. Every time I do this conversation, I feel like there's another like 27 rules, but there's still money to be made for certain, properties and certain areas. 100%. You should definitely be looking at that as an option, but also understand it. It is complicated, and probably need to surround yourself with people who understand it better than you do. But Airbnbs have a great amount of potential, especially if you're living in the property. If you can start that way while you're running it yourself, then you'll start to understand how it works. And then you move out for whatever reason. Now you're comfortable with it. You understand it. You can rake in more money. A lot of the guys that I know that I was kind of helping, a couple of years ago, they had houses that they were doing Airbnb and they were living in it. And then slowly they kicked themselves out because it was making them too much money to stay there. So they're like, well, I can't stay here. I'm going to lose money if I take this spot. So they literally moved out and would buy new houses or even rent a house or whatever so that they could make the money in the house that they were in. So there's some killer income potential. And that's not for everybody. Look, when you're doing short-term rentals, that's a freaking side job, if not a full-time job. So that kind of gets away from the passive income idea. Now you can have people manage those. So that's a possibility as well. That's what I'm doing on that first house I showed you guys in Ocean View. That's a short-term rental. We have a company managing that for us because I want it to be as passive as possible so I can focus on my business. Rent out your garage space, rent out parking space. there's so much value in, there's a ton of people right now who have RVs and boats, and they have no place to put them. They didn't think about that part of the factor. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my trailer when my boat's in the water? I mean, so there's all these things that are taking up space. So you can use what you have to create more income. Long-term flips. So I think something to point out with house hacking that everybody forgets, it's not just in the purchase. In any real estate investing, it's not just the buy, right? We focus 95% of our attention on buying it. But what do you do after it? And a lot of times we're in these periods where we're like, all right, well, I'm here. I'm not going to buy another property anytime soon for whatever reason. Well, then start working on this property so that it works better for you. So how can I make this property either work better as a rental property, or how can I make it increase the value of it so that if I want to sell it, I can, right? So we're going to hack this house so that it works better for us. A lot of people are handy. Go in there, get some elbow grease in there. You want to save some freaking money? Do stuff yourself. I mean, you really can save money. Although if you're really bad at it like me, maybe don't do it yourself, because I go into a lot of those houses too, and you're like, I think you just decrease the value because now I don't trust anything in here. And then we're talking about using equity. So how do you keep going to the next deal? There's things you can do like get a HELOC loan, right? You got a couple houses. One of them's got a lot of equity in it. How can we use that equity to buy the next property? Cash out refinance. So I did that on a house. We cash out refinanced it. We had a really good deal on it. Interest rates were good at the time, and we were able to get some money, and we were able to keep a rate where we were still cash flowing on the property. Okay, now I've got a little bit money to do the next thing. The other thing is the BRRRR strategy. So talking with Bill over here, he's lending money. If you can find somebody to lend you money up front to do the BRRRR strategy, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but it's buy, rehab, rent, and refinance, and then repeat. Repeat's the key, right? We're still building that portfolio. So if you can find someone to help you lend money on that, right? The big problem that we keep coming to, this is why we're house hopping in the first place, you don't have enough cash. So if we can keep funding these deals, we can keep building a portfolio. So let's leverage what we have to do the next deal. We probably won't get to it. I have a bunch of examples that we can kind of go over and throw some ideas around and spitball on. But one of the things is, I've got a client who leveraged the house that they house hopped so that they could buy an 8-unit complex, right? And then they were able to leverage that to buy the next complex. And that's the thing. When we pick up these properties, there's a certain value to just getting them. It's hard to get properties. But as you pick them up, there's some value to them. Now, be careful what you get. I'm not saying just buy anything, but there is value to it beyond just cash flow. There's value to it beyond appreciation. And it's the value of being able to leverage that capital that you have in it to do more things. So what we can do, this is kind of the gist of it. I've got some examples we can hit, but I know this is kind of long. So why don't we do this? Let's grab a beer. If anybody wants to stick around, then I'll go into some of the examples and we can just kind of throw some ideas around. We'll just do open forum and go through them so we can talk about some strategies that we used, or some strategies that you guys might think would have been better, or whatever. It'll be, let's kind of chat about it and see what's out there. But yeah, I think let's get a beer and then we'll go from there. Cool.